Welcome, happy Thursday, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to number 27 of Short-Term Rental Intel Podcast with Hosty. I am your host, Killian Gordon, and today we have Justin Ford of Breezeway with us. Justin Ford has eat, slept, and breathed the short-term rental industry of about 15 years as a property manager, 15 or so years as a firefighter alongside being a property manager, and then moving into, serving with our Coast Guard, serving our nation in the Coast Guard, and then moving full-time into spreading the word of short-term rental safety with Breezeway. Justin Ford is a recent 2021 VR Tech Top 20 Short-Term Rental Consultants Award winner, among many other awards. I will let him jump into that and give us a full picture of who he is. Justin, thank you for joining us here on STR Intel.
Hey, thanks for having me here, Killian. I almost think you spit that off from memory. I feel good that you know what I'm up to.
Well, we were very grateful to have you come and join Hosty and walk through our properties. Would you mind just giving us a brief, who you are, how you got into it, how you made safety very personal to you? This might sound odd, but when us at Hosty, hey, we're going to have a short-term rental expert to come and talk to us about safety, to walk through our homes and discuss what's safe and not safe. Me being on the side of owner acquisition, owner onboarding, that really struck home to me because I'm on the front line of that. And a lot of the things that you pointed out to us through our walkthroughs were things that I take for granted or we just overlook because we go in and out of residential homes every single day. So I threw a lot out there, but just kind of backtracking and introduce yourself and how you'd like to be.
I appreciate that. So everything that you said there, I've been involved in the short-term rental industry for a long time. I co-founded and started the largest vacation rental agency in the Northeast and ran that for over 10 years. Been involved with vacation rental since 1997. I'm not even sure Brian Chesky from Airbnb was born yet. So yes, I turned 50 this year. People say I don't look 50. I'm glad I don't. But I don't dye my hair. There's some grays up there. But I had a really bad accident at one of the vacation rentals I managed in 2013, and it really opened my eyes. It's interesting that in every industry there's an aspect of safety, and everybody who flies knows that they do a whole safety briefing before you take off, and the oxygen masks and all the stuff that you've got to do on a plane. And yet we haven't had a commercial airline craft in the accident or crash in the United States since that one in Buffalo, I believe, back in 2013. It's been a long time. We have a very safe industry there. And when you take a look at the cruise ship industry, they do a whole safety debrief before the ship leaves port, life jackets, life vests, safety alarms, general alarms. So much is put into that. Safety policies, procedures, and data. There's all kinds of data that shows why they need to do this. If we don't prepare for this, we'll have another Titanic. But I identified that in the short-term rental industry, there's none of that. Yes, there are statistics from the National Safety Council about accidents in the home, but we never have taken into account or didn't take into account that accidents are even much more likely in a vacation rental because people are in an unfamiliar property that's been set up by somebody else who doesn't really know. And so I was kind of the first that took a look around and went, hey, wait a minute, there's no data. And so I've gathered all that data and I've put everything together. And the unfortunate news, Killian, was that we identified that short-term rentals are the most dangerous sector of the hospitality industry. It's January 6th, when we're talking here, we've already had 9 deaths in short-term rentals this year. So it's something that I'm very passionate about because nobody else was doing it. And I kind of put the bookmark there and said, let's stop and let's look and do what everybody else is doing and be smart.
Well, I'd probably say the entire industry as a whole is very grateful for you for picking up that torch and running forward with it. Would you mind, when you're looking at things, the data you're talking about for short-term rental safety, where are you going to? Where are you coming across this type of information?
The secret sauce is a combination of several things. One is media reports. I spend a lot of time looking at media reports. Even most fire stations in the United States right now have a Facebook page. So I scour those extensively because they'll put out that they responded to a fire, and in kind of the fine print, they'll say it was Airbnbers. And you'll realize that in the news, the media just reported that there was a fire at a house and two people were injured. You do some research on the address and you find out, in fact, it was at an Airbnb and there were renters staying there. And you go, holy smokes, this is different. This isn't someone whose house burned down and they didn't have smoke alarms. This is someone's house who burned down and there were renters in there that didn't have smoke alarms and they were injured. So you got to deep dive into a little bit of it. The other key thing that I've been given access to is insurance data. Not a lot of people can get into that, and some of the industry-leading insurance companies have shared data with me. One example is Proper Insurance. They're the first to kind of show that, hey, 83% of our claims for liability have been from slips, trips, and falls. Only 3% are fire. So we've been able to take a look and compare that to National Safety Council data that shows how people fall in the homes and kind of hone in that there's a lot of potential for accidents there.
Can
So
you, Matt? I'm sorry. Can you say that again? The tripping, falling versus fire.
yeah, so 83% of insurance claims that have come into Proper, and we can say that it's probably similar across the industry, have been for slips, trips, and falls. That's the number one claim that someone's going to get, whether or not the handrail is broken or not existent. They've slipped on some stairs, poor lighting, whatever it is. Carpets are a big one. Those types of accidents are the most common type of accidents that we see in a short-term rental. And fires, big claims related to fires, whether it's been, last year out west with fires right down to, we not far from where Hosty is in Colorado. You just had a fire
Right
in
up, yeah,
Littleton.
just an hour and a half north of us. Yeah.
So any of those type of fires that have happened, those claims that are coming in, they've been about 3%. The difference there, though, is of course a slip, trip, and fall claim could be 350,000. It could be $1 million, depending on permanent issues there. But typically, with a fire claim, you're dealing with a death, so that's why they get a lot much more
Attention.
attention.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So really, the devil's in the details. You even for people who've been doing this for a very long time, they maybe have the fire extinguishers, they have the smoke alarms, CO2 detectors. They've got some of the higher ticket safety items taken care of because they're a little bit more present in the forefront of our mind. But really what's going on behind the scenes is a lot of these minor accidents that are really causing the damage to the guests, causing the issues in terms of lawsuits.
Yeah, the problem, I think the big general problem that I've seen is there's guidance. There's all this information that's out there, and I've certainly made it easier with a lot of, safety checklists I've put together. But generally speaking, what I run into the most when I speak with homeowners is when you bring up something that's not safe, their response is typically, well, we've never had an issue with that. Or their response is, well, if they're that stupid, I don't want them staying in my property if they can't figure that out. And I think that people don't understand that we all just think alike. If you're married, your wife doesn't think the same as you. You're thinking what you want for dinner. She's thinking what she wants for dinner. That should be like the first thing that says we don't think alike. And human beings coming into someone else's property don't understand the way you've set it up and think the way you've set it up. And probably the best example that I like to give a lot of that is a fire that occurred at a rental in Maine in 2017. Maine's my home state. It occurred in a VRBO rented property, or it was listed on VRBO. And the fire was started by two children playing with matches. Now you go, all right, well, that's really rough. They shouldn't have been playing with matches, but they came from a household where they never discussed fire safety. They didn't have a wood stove. They didn't use matches. They didn't have them. And now you've got these renters' kids that are put into this property that have never seen matches before, and they started playing with them. They lit the house on fire, and two people died. So it's really important, I think, to take from that story and understand you don't know who's coming to stay in your property. You don't know what their experience is. You don't know what their mobility challenges may be. And it's your obligation to make sure you set up this property so that people can be safe. And you've got to drop the attitude of, well, I don't want to rent to stupid people that would trip and fall on a carpet. If they can't see it, then I don't want to rent to them. Or the attitude of, well, it's never happened to me, so how could it happen to somebody else? And that's a big one.
There's a ultimate level of responsibility of being a host, and one of the things that stuck with me, I'm paraphrasing it might not be exactly, but you had said you almost need to look at your vacation rental as if when that car pulls up and the brakes have barely been put on and the car door flings open and the 2 or 3 kids bolt from the house, or excuse me, bolt from the car and start exploring every part of that property. And you got to you basically have to start from your driveway forward. And on some of the first walkthroughs we did with a couple of our homes, we spent an hour outside of the home before we even made it through the front door discussing safety concerns, safety issues. And a lot of them, so being on the onboarding side of homes, one common thing I'll hear is, well, it hasn't, like you're saying, well, it hasn't happened. We'll address it when it happens. Or can we wait until there's cash flow on the property to address it? And it's kind of like, well, if you don't have the cash now to handle it, you don't have the cash for a $350,000 lawsuit. So let's get it taken care of. What are some things that you find people give you a lot of kickback on, and or you not once they really kind of hear everything and all the dangers involved? Are you getting a lot of kickback anymore, if any?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And there's a couple different ways to approach it. One, I like to look at percentages. If you take a 3-bedroom home and you're making $60,000 a year renting out that 3-bedroom home, then each bedroom's $20,000. If one of those bedrooms needs smoke alarms in them that are $30 and you want to put the best smoke alarms in the property, then you're looking at investing 0.0001% of the income generated off that bedroom into ensuring they're safe. If on the extreme end, it's what we call an illegal bedroom by definition of International Building Code, and that is that it doesn't have 2 clear exits, one being a door, one being a window that's, within 44 inches of the floor, 5.7 square feet. If you've stuck the bunk bed in front of the window and now that's not egress, you've got to come up with another window that's $3,000. Well, what's $3,000 off of 1 year, 20% income? I want to take, I'm not quick with math, but let's just say I want to take 15% of the income from one bedroom for 1 year to make it safe. And so I find that approach works a lot, just breaking it down. This is a tough business to throw the I told you so's out. I'll tell you a recent story that just happened. I've known a particular manager since 2008. She's given me permission to share this without a lot of details, but she just had 2 people die in a fire in one of her rentals before Christmas, and she's been ignoring anything about safety. She knows me. She keeps saying, Justin, I'm going to get to this. I'm going to get to this. She and I actually talked this morning. She just received notice of intent to file a lawsuit. And the big thing that she said, the big statement that she made that I think is really important is, it used to be my business to make income and to run this business as a vacation rental business. Now it's become my business to attend to all the legal issues, the death. I don't even know that my company is going to survive this. And yet she'd been running great, making tons of money. Last year was her best year ever since 2008. And now all that they can do is address this, and she can't even sleep at night. So you've made all this money. That's great. You've made all this money for the past, 13 years, but now it may all be gone.
All for naught.
Over something that was, $40,000. I think it was about a $50 investment that would have prevented that tragedy.
Absolutely. I'm gonna carry that story forward and share that. I recently had a gentleman who has be close to 7 homes with us. He's been doing it himself for about 10 years. We went in, we ran it through the Breezeway safety checklist that you provide. And we hung up fire extinguishers. We onboarded the home. We snapped the pictures. Looks beautiful. He had more to say than that, but basically the first thing that came out of his mouth was, I've been doing this for 10 years and we don't hang fire extinguishers because they look ugly.
Yeah.
Well, there's something to be said about that.
They do. I was in, there's kind of the third component. It goes back to what you were saying, when the renters show up. And that's a responsibility that you have as the host or the manager, is that when they do show up, that they have a safe stay. we look at the hotel industry, and the hotel industry's taken that on. They don't have there are fires in hotels, carbon monoxide incidents. There was one yesterday at a hotel. I saw a small fire. Nobody was hurt. It's because all the smoke alarms, CO alarms, the escape plan, everything worked. They've learned that lesson. And they know that because people show up with vacation brain. And if you don't know what vacation brain is, turn on, I know you're not supposed to, but turn on your Ring camera and watch when the guests arrive. That is vacation brain. I was just down in Florida in a popular vacation destination, Anna Maria Island. Beautiful area to go on vacation.
Okay, I was just my fiance's dad just got married down there, and then I actually just returned from St. Pete a week ago.
So you know that area. There's tons of rentals down there. I'm going down the road, and these people are just walking in the middle of the road. And I'm like, what are these people doing? And I kind of end up pulling up beside them. I'm like, you guys are like in the road. And they just both looked at me with this look of bewilderment. And they were like, oh my gosh, yeah, we didn't even realize we're just want to know. I'm like, you guys down here on vacation? They're like, yeah, that's our rental right over there. That's vacation brain. They've shown up. They've worked hard. They show up at the rental property, and they turn their brains off. They're thinking about cocktails, dinner reservations, and all these things because you've made your house ready for them. They don't need to think about their batteries in the smoke alarm. They don't need to think about if there's a kitchen fire that they've got to go hunt around for the fire extinguisher and put the fire out. It's not their house. Why do they even care? So to your point with fire extinguishers, yeah, they're ugly, but guess what? That's your investment. If you hide the tool that the renter can use to put out the fire, they're not going to put out the fire. So now you've lost income, and now you're dealing with insurance stuff. But if you make it easy for them, they might go, you know what? Hey, there's a fire extinguisher. The stove's on fire. I'm going to put it out. This is pretty easy. They made it pretty easy for me. I'm not going to hurt myself. I'll give it a blast here and put it out.
Give them the tools they need to be even with vacation fog. And I had that. I did a week and a half road trip from Colorado, Minnesota to Florida, back to Colorado on the car. And I mean, we checked into vacation rentals and hotels, and you're brain dead. You know, you're ready to cocktails, dinner, sleep, whatever it may be. So fire, those major things, those are, even talking to homeowners, as you know, we run the home through a safety inspection, et cetera, and they go, no, we have fire extinguishers, we have smoke alarms, we have that taken care of. What are some of the less common things that, for some reason, two jump out to me from some of our walkthroughs, and that was making knives sharp enough to actually cut because people are cutting their fingers and hands open. I would never have thought of that. And then you have short-term rentals all over the place. You have them in backyards, you have them in cottages, you have them in apartments, and having the house number visible and available for emergency services. And, you know, that's something, because you got your mother-in-law suite, went right over my head. Very foolish of me. But what are some of the smaller things where, you know, fire, major injuries, some of that is in the forefront of some people's minds if they're doing this somewhat professionally. What are the smaller things that just bewilder you that people overlook?
Yeah, you know, to touch on the address one, you know, to expand on that is also lighting.
Yes. Thank you.
I show up at rentals all the time, and there's terrible lighting, and that leads to the trips and falls, because then they trip and fall getting from their car. You know, a lot of people aren't doing a good job with that, and that's one of the more frustrating things for me. Most people show up, there's a statistic out there, I don't know how accurate it is, but it's 47% of renters arrive at their rental after dark. I think that's based on some studies I did with check-in times, but if half the renters are showing up after dark, what are we doing to make sure they can see it? In a lot of places, they don't leave the lights on, and then the renters trip. They haven't even got into the house yet, and they've already had an accident, and we've seen that with claims. So that's a big one. The other is carpets. Carpets drive me nuts. I call them flying carpets. I show them all the time. I actually have a video collection of them. I'm at 96 different little videos. I can play it as a montage for you, where I show up at a rental, and you step in the door, and there's a flying carpet. It's just this little mat that someone's picked up for $3 or something at a dollar store. Yep. And I don't know what they were thinking, but some homeowner just thought, I should have a mat there, but I'm not going to spend a lot of money because it's for the renters. So it has no grip under it, and it just slides, and the renters slide. 60 years and old is 30% of our renters. And statistically, 80% of renters over the age of 60 are going to slip and fall. As we get older, this hasn't happened to you yet, but our steps start becoming scuffs. And it only takes a quarter of an inch to create a trip hazard. And
Okay.
so a lot of people aren't setting up the rental. They worry about kids, but they don't worry about people that are becoming mobility challenged. And baby boomers make up a huge percentage of that right now. And it's not as easy to get around as it used to be. And we're not focused on preventing those trips and falls. And this is just kind of a side note. It's a scary side note, but people who are in the more mature demographic also have more time to sit there and call lawyers and talk about these things
It's a very
than
good
someone
point.
who's 20 or 30 who trips and falls and goes, well, that was my own stupid fault.
It's a
And
very
you
good
may never
point.
even hear about it.
Yeah, one thing, shortly after your walkthroughs, we got rid of every bathroom floor mat. Those bathroom floor mats with the kind of that rubbish bottom, they start to peel up on the sides. And there's also hygiene too. You don't know how often those bathroom floor mats are getting cleaned. So we went hotel style. They're
Yeah.
flat and
And the hotels have learned that lesson. That's why when you walk into a hotel, there's never anything on the floor. And I see a lot of rental companies are doing that now. They have the towel rolled up right at
yeah.
or hanging over the shower. And yeah, you should never have anything on the floor in the bathroom. So that's a big one. One that slips a lot of people too is water, domestic water temperature.
Yeah.
We see in a lot of cases, um, beds and heads. I hate this, or heads and beds. I always get that backwards. Heads and beds. Let's get as many people into this rental as possible. I was just in a 5-bedroom home that they've set up for 23 people. That's insane.
Oh
It's a
boy. Yeah.
5-bedroom home. Now, you need a 40 to 50 gallon hot water heater for 2 people. That's what this home had, was a 45 gallon or 50 gallon hot water heater. So you're looking, maybe that's good for 3 people. Now you have people on vacation there, and they like to take showers and baths on vacation. That many people put such a demand on that in order to counter it, they turned the temperature up. They turned the temperature to 143 degrees. That's what we measured on the sink. You get a 3rd-degree burn after 2 seconds of exposure to water that's over 140 degrees. And it's only 6 seconds over 130 degrees. So a lot of people aren't thinking about this. You got to add another hot water heater. Yeah, it's $3,000, but if you're putting 23 people in the property, you're going to make that back pretty quickly. So, the list goes on. The
Justin,
list goes on and on.
when through some of the information you hand out, there's bunk beds underneath fans. I chuckled at it. In all honesty, I chuckled at it. I was involved. We aren't managing the property, thank God, but I was involved in some of the setup of a triplex recently, and the gentleman, we were involved in the management again because we didn't have any control. But this gentleman, triple bunk beds right underneath a fan. I didn't think I'd ever see it, but triple bunk triple bunk beds right underneath the fan. So you go from the beginning of the home where you get out of the car to making sure emergency services can see the home, to not making sure the guest trips on the walk on the way in, to making sure they don't trip on the carpet in the home, the bathrooms, slicing themselves with the hands and with the knives, etc. There's so many little things. I almost want to go like room through room with you real quickly and just mention 1 or 2 things. So like, again, starting from the driveway walking in, just 1 or 2 pertinent things that you want the audience to hear. That just
Clear path and good lighting.
Okay.
You got to have a clear path. You can't have like growth on the walkway or uneven concrete steps. They need to have a clear path, handrails up the steps, and can see their whole way into the house.
Okay, kitchen. 1 or 2 pertinent things for the kitchen.
Kitchen, make sure that all the appliances are safe, that you do an annual cleaning of the refrigerator. Refrigerator's the number 2 cause of fires in a rental property. They get used hard. They build up with a lot of lint. And then making sure all the other appliances work and you've got a fire extinguisher that's readily accessible.
Actually, can you touch on dishwashers? That was a surprising fact for me.
Yeah, this dishwashers and this is a quick little side note, and this accounts for all the appliances in a short-term rental. There's such a thing as commercial grade, and we hear it all the time. People are like, oh, I want to get a commercial grade stove for my house, a big Wolf or, whatever it is. There's a reason there's that term. And appliances that people are putting in their short-term rentals are designed for residential use. A refrigerator, for example, is designed that it has tons of food in it all the time, and it doesn't run very hard. But in a short-term rental, they're empty all the time when they're not being used, or they don't put a lot in there. So a refrigerator has to run harder. It's not designed for that. It's not commercial. And so it builds up a lot more lint, it's flowing more, and now you have a fire hazard. Dishwashers, same thing. They've got the heater coils in it. You've got everybody and their mother who's different, opening and closing it in different ways, putting different things in. And believe it or not, dishwasher fires are very common. There's 30,000 dishwasher fires in the United States every year.
Yeah,
So,
I had no idea. Yeah,
yep.
so that caught me off guard. So moving from the kitchen, you kind of touch on potentially a laundry room. What would you say things for living rooms and family rooms, areas that you really wouldn't even look at as potential safety hazards?
Tip hazards. Every TV you buy comes with screws and a little thing in the back. And if you don't have it because you threw it away, it's $9 on Amazon. You got to secure the TVs. They weigh 50 pounds. Kids reach behind them to hook their Xbox in when they arrive, and they fall on them. And then, of course, carpets are another big one, making sure that they're anchored down, that they're not trip hazards, that people can walk into the living room without tripping over a carpet.
Would you mind, and this kind of extends to almost all rooms and even outside furniture, but would you touch on chairs? Because there's also commercial furniture and residential furniture, and you see people collapse chairs left and right.
Oh, it's crazy how many are. I just saw a claim that came through from Pennsylvania. It's a $400,000 claim from an IKEA stool. I like IKEA. I'm not here to bash IKEA, but IKEA furniture should never be in a short-term rental. Never. Unless you want to go in after every rental with the hex key and tighten the screws on them. You go into a hotel or a doctor's office or a school, they have commercial furniture. People of varying weights, varying types, using the furniture differently all the time, and yet somehow that you don't think that's going to happen in your rental. I'm sorry, but you got varying weights, varying people. You got to spend the extra money on the quality furniture, and you've got to inspect it and check it regularly to make sure that things are tight and stools aren't wobbly. Same goes to pull-out sofas. I don't believe in pull-out sofas. If you're going to do one, do a fold-out sofa. I was at a presentation in Florida for the Florida Vacation Rental Managers a little while ago, and we actually asked, and over 30 people, 30 professional managers in the room raised their hand to talk about pinch hazards from renters folding up the metal retractable sofas and have had accidents or claims related to that.
No, I cringe. We'll have new owner inquiries come in, and they're very proud about just setting up their short-term rental, and it is a big task. It's hard. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of time and effort, and they begin talking about how they've managed to fit so many pull-out sofas in every different room of the home, and that goes into occupancy hazards as well.
It's they're not comfortable. I don't know. I don't know why people want to put those in the rentals. It goes back to that heads and beds thing.
Yep.
If you got a 2-bedroom home, rent it to 4 people. If you want to put a pull-out sofa in, put a fold-out sofa, which again folds out as opposed to mechanically coming out, and offer it that maybe it's for a kid or for grandma who wants to sleep one night. They're not comfortable anyway. So
let's go quickly. Bedrooms, just off the cut, pertinent items or ideas for bedrooms.
Smoke alarm, obviously, and carbon monoxide are definitely the most important. The smoke alarm is the single most important part of your rental. Most people go to Home Depot and buy the cheapest one they can find and throw it up. That's the worst thing you can possibly do. I'm not bashing Home Depot or Lowe's. I might even have some of their stock in my retirement portfolio. I don't know, but I'm going to tell you right here now, I do not know of any smoke alarms or CO alarms for sale at either of the box stores that meet even the basic standards under the Consumer Reports testing. Top smoke alarms, according to Consumer Reports, are dual detection, not combo, dual. They detect both photoelectric and ionization. And if you don't know what that is, and you don't have any business renting a home, you need to know. That's the 2 most important things you need to know. Is you need to know how fire is detected in your rental, because half the time your renters are there, they're sleeping, and if you're not making sure they can wake up, then you have no business doing this.
Would you recommend a brand out there for people listening to this?
Yeah, Kitty and First Alert both have them. They're both the dual detection. They make it hardwire, or they make it for just battery only.
Okay.
And I strongly recommend that smoke alarms in a short-term rental are interconnected. And if you can't do that because it's too expensive to get an electrician to come in and hardwire and interconnect them, maybe you have an older home, then you should wirelessly interconnect them. And if you still can't do that, Ring has a product. They have a thing that's called a smoke and CO alarm listener. I actually have one right here.
Okay.
Um, and you can connect that in for $400. You can connect that in with a siren and make it go off, and it's twice as loud. But you need to make sure that if there's a fire anywhere in that rental property or a carbon monoxide incident anywhere in that rental property, that the renters have the earliest possible notification, and it's the least expensive thing you can do safety-wise to make sure that happens.
Okay, that's extremely important. And two, do you think now there's some differences to think about for a bedroom and fire safety on a second or third floor versus
Yeah.
a first floor? And would you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah. If you haven't done it, do this. Mask yourself one day. Mask yourself in your own rental property and figure out how to get out, because if the fire is developed enough, and I've been a firefighter for 15 years. When I show up at properties to go into them 10 minutes after a fire's been reported, you can't see. You can't see. I actually was in a fire recently where I came out of the fire and one of my feet was sopping wet and I couldn't figure out why. Water had gotten into my boot. When we cleared all the smoke, I actually found out that I had stepped inside of a toilet in a bathroom. I didn't even know I was in the bathroom. That's how thick the smoke was in the
Wow.
fire. So you've got to understand that these renters who aren't familiar with the house, they're going to wake up to the same thing. You don't want them waking up to that. You want them waking up as early as you possibly can and being able to get out. And if they're on the third floor and they've got to go out a window, you want them to have an escape ladder. Code says if the bedroom's more than 20 feet above the ground outside, you need to have some sort of an escape staircase, ladder, something. Most people aren't going to build a ladder on the side of their third floor rental. So for less than $100, you can go into Amazon and buy an escape ladder that's in a bag in the closet, under the bed, put some signage up. Give them a chance to survive if something happens.
It's a great way of saying it. I feel like a lot of the safety, short-term rental safety inherently might be a little bit of a doom and gloom conversation. And when I talk to new owners who are exploring the short-term rental market, and we begin discussing really how you should be approaching it, how you should be thinking about it, sometimes folks get maybe not a little bit turned off, but they start to become a little bit wary and maybe a bit of a stranger danger on, oh, maybe this is too dangerous, or maybe these things, I don't want this happening to me, so I'm just going to stay in the long-term rental market or whatnot. Can you talk to that? Because, this isn't to scare people off from this industry by any means. This is just to
Absolutely not.
approach it from the right mindset.
Absolutely, and I hear that a lot. I actually heard this morning from a homeowner who said they've been watching my safety stuff for a couple of years and looking to get into it, but they're just terrified by some of the stories they've heard. And the reality is there's a risk in everything we do. If you're an auto mechanic, if you don't tighten the lug nuts before that car rolls out of the mechanic shop and a wheel comes off, you've got a real problem on your hand. And if you're a chef, if you put eggs that are 7 weeks old in your cake, and everybody's going to get food poisoning because you put bad eggs in. So there's risks in everything we do. And if you look at it, home safety is one of the top things that has been addressed in the world. There's so many products out there for it. We've made it actually easy. So there's so many easy things out there to prevent all of this. There are a lot of accidents that happen in short-term rentals, but this is the cool thing. They're all preventable. You can't make it so that somebody doesn't go out in a car and have a car accident. There's a car accident. There's like 20 every second in the United States because you can't control that. It's people are drinking and driving, all these things. But when you put someone in your short-term rental, the only reason they should get hurt is if they tie their own shoelaces together or they spill water all over the bathroom floor and slip on their own. So that's what's so cool about this is you can actually do stuff. So my idea of what we're talking about with all the accidents that are happening or have happened are because people haven't thought about it, haven't put attention to it, and haven't said, hey, this is something important that I need to do, I can't just go, hey, I want to list a rental property. I'm going to put all my favorite furniture in it, and I'm going to put some cool, shabby, chic decor on the wall. Look at my rental. Isn't this cool? And then walk away and make money. You can't do that.
No.
That's the fun part of the business. The fun part of baking is watching someone eat your cake, but you can't do and offer that cake for someone to do until you've made it right with the right ingredients. And so take an approach to it that says, hey, I'm going to make my rental property safe. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people who have done and followed my safety checklist. And the only calls I get from people related to that are, thank God we did what you said because it prevented this accident. We put out a grill fire yesterday. We saved a pool drowning because you recommended putting in a life hook. We never had that before. We just saved a 2-year-old through our program in a potential pool drowning. They didn't have safety hooks. I said put one in. They put one in. Very next runner that came in, someone with mobility challenges couldn't get into the pool to rescue the 2-year-old, and they used the safety hook. Oh my gosh, we saved a life.
Incredible.
So it's all preventable,
Well,
and it actually should be fun.
Just I
doing
guess
the prevention.
guests are looking for this.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. This could be a little inaccurate, but I either from Simon Lehman or yourself, like some like north of 50 or 60% of guests safety pops up in some of those keyword searches, and I think this is a Simon Lehman was saying. We had a huge boost in market awareness. We had a bunch of new first-time movers or users of short-term rentals move from some type of other accommodations into rental homes, vacation rental homes. It's now the responsibility of the hosts and the property managers to keep those new guests in that industry instead of them going back to traditional accommodations. And part of doing that, part of creating a sticky, a brand or a vacation rental that people continue to use and come back to now is approaching it from a safety aspect. So this is what the market is asking for too now.
Absolutely. I jumped for joy. You might have heard me across country scream for joy. CNN actually added as a headline on their website that safety is the new sexy word in travel. And it truly is. And some of that was related obviously to COVID.
Sure.
But generally speaking, there's 3 components to safety, what we see. Security, and that's like these parties and who's the neighbor, and cameras and all that stuff. There's health, which is COVID and, how well was the property clean and disinfected. And then there's traditional safety, which is what I talk about, smoke alarms and trips and falls. But the reality is that is a concern. People know when they go stay in a hotel, they see the emergency exit sign. They see the fire hoses in the hallway. They know that they see all these routine inspections, big alarms. They're scared to go stay in a rental because they don't know. And when you reassure them that it's safe, properties that we have done we do a safety certification program for, and people put the sticker that they've passed that safety certification. They're getting an increase in bookings, and they're also getting the key success, and this is outside of safety. This goes back to my years as a property manager. The number one thing you always want to look for is a repeat renter. They're
Absolutely.
much cheaper to rebook your property if you're not having to pay Airbnb and VRBO money, because now they're booking directly through you. Book direct, repeat renters. What greater way to bring them back than the fact that they feel safe when they come stay in your rental property. They know you care about them and that you've put attention into safety.
Man, that's such a wonderful place to wrap up this podcast. But there's one other thing I almost feel like we have to discuss on here, and that's water access, hot tub or pool access directly out of rooms, like right off right into the front porch, right off the living room, and sometimes right off of bedrooms. So before we wrap it up, because that was a big one for me, getting little hotel locks on doors. Would you just mind touching on that before we wrap up?
Yeah. All right. We're gonna hit a little gloom and doom real quick. Close. We'll find a positive way.
But I mean, there's so many hot tubs, so many pools.
There is. Yeah. 2021 was the worst year ever for pool drownings and hot tub accidents in the short-term rental industry. Florida, I think, is going to wrap up around 90 pool drownings in vacation rentals. Arizona, Texas, very strong. It was not a good year. Not a good year at all. And again, it goes back to what I said before. People staying in a rental home aren't familiar with pools. They don't have it at home. They're counting on you. So pool alarms are critically important. Gates. A lot of the accidents that are happening are because of gates. The gates don't latch. The gate is supposed to close and latch. And there's supposed to be locks up high on the door so that the kids can't go out. A lot of places use pull alarms. Those pull alarms are okay. Some of them fall. The sticky tape falls off. They're annoying. The renters disable them. I really like putting a lock up because remember, these kids, they wake up, they're excited, they're on vacation. Mommy and daddy are still sleeping. I'm going to go out to the pool at 6 a.m. You don't want your renters waking up to finding their little girl floating in the pool. And it happens. It's happened a lot. It's scary. So there needs to be a lot of emphasis. And this may sound dramatic, but you do. You have to go down to the local Hilton Garden Inn or the local, if you're a Marriott or a Sheraton, go down to those, look at their pool. That's what your pool needs to be like. It needs to have those warning signs, depth markers. You can't have pool toys out. You got to get rid of the pool toys. I'm sorry. I see I see on VRBO and Airbnb, I see the pink flamingo. That pink flamingo, I've had it with that inflatable pink flamingo. You can't supply non-U.S. Coast Guard approved life stuff at your pools. Let the renters buy it, and if they leave it behind, pop it and throw it away. So yeah, and hot tub safety is a big one too. You've got to put the notice up. You got to make sure the cover locks. And you know what a big issue's been with hot tubs hasn't been as much from renters having issues in them, but neighbors. And what will happen is people look at your calendar and see your rental's vacant, and the neighbors go over and use the hot tub because it's the rental hot tub, and then there's been incidents from that. So you got to have locking covers on it.
Okay. Well, Justin, thank you for joining us. How can either the individual rent by owner reach out to you, learn more about what you're up to in this industry, or the property manager? How can they find you? Where would you direct them?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. Short-termrentalsafety.com links to a lot of stuff. I do a Facebook page where I share a lot of information. I have an Instagram, short-term rental safety, hashtag short-term rental safety. I post a lot of information there. I am the director of safety and certification programs at Breezeway. You noted earlier. In fact, I just got another award. We just got an award at Breezeway. I was just over in England. We got an international. Yeah, I'm excited about this. This is a heavy one. You should have seen me going through security. The Altos, the thing's like a brick. So yeah, we got a lot of awards for our safety program.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we've got safety checklists. Just go to breezeway.io. Breezeway is a technology company, and I know Hosty uses Breezeway. Yeah. Breezeway is a tool for one owner or 100 owners. Helps you manage your cleaning, property care, and operations, and we'll load the safety inspections into your account so you can just do them. And then we have the course. But bottom line, you can always just email me at safety@breezeway.io, not .com.io. And I'm really excited too. If you want to see me in person, I'm going to be doing some road shows with the Association of Short-Term Rental Hosts and Operators.
Okay.
And I'm in North Carolina this month. I'll be in Charlotte. I believe it's on Thursday or Wednesday, January 20th or something like that. And then Friday, I will be in the Outer Banks. And whether you're a property manager or host, you can come see me in person and go through our safety programs.
Awesome. That's wonderful. Well, Justin, thank you for joining us. Everyone tuning in, thank you for joining Short-Term Rental Intel with Hosty. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time.